In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your ThinkorSwim platform. I'll cover things including the toolbar, your chart settings, your platform settings, and the different indicators that I like to have. Along the way, you'll learn things about the ThinkorSwim platform, along with some of the nuances that the platform has as well. Let's get started. By the end of the video, your platform will look something like this. Now, for me to match what you probably have right now, I'm going to reset my workspace to default. See you in a second. Alright, if your charts look something like this, that means you've probably just created an account and you're looking to set up ThinkorSwim. If you have charts that look a little bit different, you're probably already a little familiar with ThinkorSwim. You may want to use the timestamps to jump around. Now, if you're starting from scratch, here's the layout of the overall charting platform. First off, how do you get to charts? Click Charts here at the top. This is the Charts tab. Speaking of tabs, you have a few different tabs: Monitor, Trade, Analyze, Scan, Market Watch. All of these are consistent and you can't change these tabs. So these tabs don't leave you much room for customization. In this video, we're going to focus on setting up the Charts tab here, which is setting up your actual charts. Now on the left-hand side, you'll also find a panel. If you don't like this panel, you can simply hide it by clicking the arrow, and you can expand it by expanding the arrow. This left panel has a bunch of different widgets that you can add and subtract if you'd like. To add a widget, simply click this plus icon, and that will pull up all of the different things you can choose. The most common widget that I like to add is a watch list. You'll see we already have one watch list loaded on, but many times it might be useful to have multiple watch lists. Maybe one is things like your broader sector just to have an overview, while the other watch list might be something a little bit more for active day trading. You'll also notice that by default, ThinkorSwim has a quick chart that it adds in. I'm going to delete that gadget by clicking the hamburger menu icon and then clicking Delete Gadget. Same thing with the Trader TV. I'd like to eliminate both noise and things that may slow down my platform. Along with live news here, I like to remove this. I use Forex Factory for my news. If you prefer having the news, that could be a widget you may want to keep. Now, one more widget, in case you are looking to add one, is the Trade Flash. Trade Flash will simply give you some of the symbols that have some interesting activity, anything worthy of being called out, things like sweeps, etc., and it's built directly inside of the ThinkorSwim platform. If you're consistently in front of the screens, that might be a nice widget that you have just to know what's moving inside of the markets. Now we move on to the actual charts here. By default, you'll notice my charts have no room to the right-hand side. Also, on the bottom of my charts, we have things like the volume panel loaded on. The indicators that they give us are none on our charts, which gives us a really nice clean chart. Now I still see this tools menu dropping down, but let me show you first off how you can set that up. I think that's really the core of being productive inside of the platform. To set that up, click on the chart settings menu. That's this button right here, chart settings, and that will then pull up your chart settings menu option. Now there's lots of different tabs here. You have the general tab, your price axis tab, your time axis tab, etc. There's settings on each of these, so let's go through this one by one. We're going to start with the general tab first, and I'll share the settings that I like to use. First off is inside of the snap drawings, I like to set this to open, high, low, close. That means anytime you use any one of the drawing tools, which includes a trendline tool, and you want to say take it from this high to this high, it will automatically snap to the highs instead of making you zoom in and pinpoint the highs directly. I think this is a really nice feature. Think of it as a magnet to the open, high, low, close of a price. Now another checkbox that I like to leave on is this synchronized crosshairs position. What that does is, let's say hypothetically you had two different charts here loaded on. Maybe you have SPY on the top and maybe you have QQQ at the bottom. Synchronized crosshairs will allow you to go through the dates, and if you're on the same date, maybe scrolling back on your charts, you'll see the crosshairs lining up, which allows you to match the date and time of whatever you might be looking at on chart A with what you're looking at on chart B. I think that's a really neat feature. So those two checkboxes that checkbox I like to leave on, and in the dropdown I like to select OHLC. Now the next setting on this chart that you want to pay attention to is the My Tool setting. Here, I like to leave this on each chart. By default, it should be set to off. So if yours is set to off, turn it to on each chart. And if ever you see that the tools menu is giving you glitches, simply turn it back to off, apply, and then click on each chart again, apply, and you'll see it will appear right away. So it's a nice way to almost reset your tools menu. Now, one last optional feature that I'll share is this Show Trades menu. If you're new to ThinkorSwim, once you start placing some trades, Show Trades is a nice way to almost have a trade journal that's on your chart. It shows you where you bought and you sold a particular position, and it makes it nice and easy to see it directly on your chart, especially if you're doing things like automated trading, etc. It looks something like this. So that's a nice setting that you will want to leave on only when you need it and leave off when you don't need it. Now we come back to our settings. That takes us to all of the settings that I like to have for general. Now we move on to price axis. For a price axis, you'll notice that we have things like the expansion area, but I don't really touch price axis at all. The one setting that you may want to toggle on and off is if you want fit studies on and off, and that if you start to use things like the volatility box models, you'll find that having fit studies on is a nice setting to have. Now, next up, we move on to time axis. If you remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about how we have no room to the right-hand side. The way we fix that is by expanding our expansion area. Here you can add in a number like say 60, click apply, and all of a sudden you'll have 60 bars worth of room to the right side. That might be a little bit too much, so I'll trim this back down to something like 20, which still allows me to look 20 bars ahead, lets me see the upcoming earnings, but is enough where I don't really feel like I'm seeing too much. Now, next up, you have favorite time frames. This is where you can control which time frames you see in the time frame drop down right here. So, for example, by default, we have the 1 day 1 minute, 5 day 5 minute, 5 day 15 minute, 10 day 30 minute, 20 day 1 hour, 4 hour, 180 day, daily 1 hour, and weekly 3 year. I like to edit most of these by default, so the up to 1 day 1 minute, I like that. I also like to have the 2-minute time frame loaded on. So to do that, simply click Add Time Frame here, navigate to Intraday, and come into 2 minutes and select however many days back you'd like. Depending on how much RAM you have inside of your machine, you may want to adjust how much historical data you have because that may slow down your platform. So I added a 2-minute 5-day chart. I'm going to move this up so it appears right below the 1-minute time frame. And that will mean, now if I click apply, okay, when I come into the drop down here, I will see the 1 minute, and now I also see the 2 minute. If you click customize list, that takes you directly to the pane that we were on, which was the favorite timeframes panel. Now let's add one more time frame. So let's say you wanted to have the 39-minute time frame, which I know for all of us squeeze traders, we like to have that. Simply come in, select 39-minute. I'm going to come in and choose something like 30 days worth of history here. Click add, move up, and now you will have the 39-minute appearing directly in the dropdown, and these custom timeframes will have the clock icon next to them. Come back to customize list. Some more things you may want to do here. Take your weekly, click edit, and here instead of 3 years, change this to 20 years worth of data. For your daily time frame, instead of just 1 year, I like to have 5 years worth of data as my default, and the rest here we can leave as is. If I click apply, that now gives us a nice starting point for time frames, which makes us a little bit more productive when we want to switch between different time frames. If you don't like certain time frames, you can also remove them to keep this list nice and short. So say you did not use the 39 minute, simply click delete, apply, and you will no longer have that. So far we've talked about the general tab, we've talked about price axis, time axis, favorite time frames. Now we come into appearance, which is where you can change things like your colors, and if you see things like candlesticks, Heikin-Ashi candles, or even just a line chart. I prefer a candle. Click apply, so we've saved everything, and we move on to equities. Now inside of equities and futures, if you do trade futures, and options actually, if you trade options or any one of these markets, there's really just a few things that are worth paying attention to, and the settings are the same on each of them. So I'll just talk about one, and you can adjust them based on what you'd like. The two settings are inside of your axis and the volume subgraph. The most frequent question that I'll get from traders, especially new ones to ThinkorSwim, is how do you remove this volume subgraph? Well, if you're on equities, simply uncheck this volume subgraph option, and that will then remove the volume subgraph. The second question is how do you turn on and off extended hours? That's this right here inside of the time area. If you leave this checkbox on, That will then allow you to see extended hours. So if you come into something like an intraday time frame chart, you'll see this gray shaded region, which is the after hours activity. That's why it's highlighted. Same thing with futures. You can highlight the after hours activity. I can come into ES and I can see what's happening both during market hours along with after hours. Let's say you don't want to see after hours activity. Simply turn off this checkbox, and I did that for equities, so I can come back to equities, and then you'll just have the charts appearing as is. So that's how you turn on and off extended hours activity. I like to leave extended hours turned on for the most times. Gives us very useful information in all the time with the futures markets. Now that takes us to the end of all of the settings that we have for chart settings. It was a little bit comprehensive, but hopefully through it you have a really nice starting point for a good place in terms of setting up. Now we'll move on to our application settings, and here there's only a few things we really want to adjust. So to adjust your application settings, we're going to click Setup in the top right hand corner, and then click the first bar or first menu item, which is Application Settings. That will then pull up the application settings, and there's really just a few things we're looking at. The first is look and feel, and this is where you can change which color mode you'd like. I like to have mine set to dark by default, and in case the font or anything else is too small, this is where you can adjust all of those settings for all of your charting platform. So look and feel is where you adjust the appearance of what you're actually seeing. Now, outside of look and appearance, the other setting that I like to look at and oftentimes tell a lot of new folks to look at is your startup. Here, make sure for the workspace used is your last application state. This way, you resume back to where you left the platform instead of needing to do all of this from scratch every single time. Also, on your screen shown on startup, I like to have it as the last use screen, and this way we ditch the entire home screen, which I'm not sure adds a bunch of value, at least not to me. Now the next setting we have is notifications. Notifications is where you can change the email address and the phone number that you get the alerts sent to inside of ThinkorSwim. I'm not going to enter on this screen right now, so I don't give away my email and phone number, but that's where you can configure it. It's a very easy setup process. They just send you some notifications to confirm that you actually own both the email and the phone number, and then you're ready to go. Now we move on to order defaults. Inside of order defaults, here you can adjust all of the defaults that you'd like for the quantity for both stocks, options, futures, and future options. So for stocks, if you're on a smaller account and maybe you don't like to start with 100, maybe you want to start with 1, you can adjust that here directly. Same thing with futures markets, you can adjust the quantity here, and same thing with options, maybe you like to buy a 10 lot by default, you can set that here so it saves you that extra step when you're placing an order. So default order defaults is a nice place where you can, again, boost a little bit of your productivity. The last setting here that I like to look at is the hotkeys. And the one hotkey that I set up, which I found is quite useful, is inside of chart. You'll notice I've added in one hotkey, which is to zoom out, and that I have set to Control D. That's a nice hotkey that I found. Zooming out is something I do quite often, but there's not an easy way inside of the platform to do it. So that's a hotkey that I like. You can, of course, configure other hotkeys if you want, but for the most part, the platform is fairly intuitive. So that crosses off our chart settings box. That crosses off our platform settings box. Now we can come in and start configuring our charts. And the first place to get started here is the actual tools menu bar that we've been talking about. Now we turn this on again with the My Tools here set to on each chart. Now to see this tools menu, hover below the symbols and you'll see it appear. Click this pin icon on the left, and that will then pin this directly onto your charts, which I think is a really handy and neat way to set up the menu buttons, which allows you to jump between different buttons. Now what these buttons do is they connect directly to study sets or styles inside of the ThinkorSwim platform, which makes it easy to do things like go between different study sets, just like this one. Now, of course, here I have these study sets pre-configured, but I'll show you how you can configure those yourself. Now, in order to configure these study sets, we need to first have studies in the first place, and studies is a fancy way to say indicators. So far, if you have this menu or this tools menu on your chart, leave it blank. We'll add the buttons in just a second. In fact, if it makes you feel better, I can remove my buttons here so we start directly from scratch. So let me go ahead and do that. and then we'll start by downloading and importing the different indicators that we'd like. All right, now let's get started with downloading the indicators first. And once we download the indicators that we would like to have inside of our platform, we can then set up things like our study sets, different styles that we would like, and then connect them directly inside of our toolbar for a one-click move. Hang in there, we're about halfway through. This is a good time for a little bit of a coffee break or a bathroom break if you'd like. We'll hit pause here, and in the next section, we're going to pick up with downloading the indicators and setting up our charts. Welcome back. Now we're going to start talking about indicators, specifically loading them inside of our platform so we can start to build study sets and get our charts to look the way we would want them to look, giving us useful information that allows us to make decisions quickly. Now, first off, let me show you where the studies, fancy name for indicators, are located inside of ThinkorSwim. You can open up all of the studies by clicking this beaker icon. That opens up the studies menu, and inside of the studies menu, you'll find three different tabs. The first tab is studies, which means indicators. The second tab is strategies, which are backtesters. And the third tab are sets, which are combinations of different indicators that you want to save as a set, so it's easy to load all of them in one click. Now, first off, let me show you some of the built-in studies that ThinkorSwim gives available to you. These are the ones you've probably heard of, things like the ADX, things like the moving averages, things like the RSI. You can find all of those built inside of the platform here. For the purposes of our video, I want to show you where you can find all of our ThinkorSwim indicators, which gives you a lot of useful information that you can't find directly inside of ThinkorSwim. Now let me start with the first indicator, which is the market pulse indicator. You can find all of these indicators on our website. That's tosindicators.com/indicators. It's free to create an account, and most of the indicators that I'll talk about are free. And through this process, you'll understand how to download them, import them into the platform, and what kind of useful information you can get. Now, one caveat I want to mention here is on our website, for example, we have 49 different indicators available. Of course, I don't have 49 loaded on my chart. They're used sparingly, and you'll find that each one gives you different pieces of information. In this video, I want to show you the ones that I always have on my charts, and along the way, I'm just going to point out some of the ones that you may find useful yourself. So let's get started. First indicator that I want to show you, I mentioned, was the market pulse indicator. The market pulse indicator, I think, will change the way you trade markets. It's a much better substitute for things like moving averages, simple moving averages where you have tons of lines on your chart. No, keep it simple. The market pulse gives you one line and it answers the very simple question, what is the current trend? Are we in a market stage of acceleration? Are we in a market stage of accumulation? Are we in a market stage of distribution? Or are we in a market of deceleration? Very simple, answers that question. This is a free indicator, and I think this is a great place to get started, especially if you're new to trading. Just click Download Indicator, and then click Save, and this will download a zip file directly onto your machine. I'll walk you through how to import the indicators. At the end, we'll import all of them in one sweep. First, let's download all of the different indicators. So we already downloaded the market pulse. Now with the market pulse, I also want to call out you have things like the multi-time frame market pulse, which allows you to see the market pulse on different time frames. The next indicator that I want to talk about is the Keltner channel wedges, also free and also a very simple indicator that we built together. Now, if you remember, the market pulse answers the question, what is the trend? The Keltner channels answers the question, are you in an extended place of this current trend or is it safe? That's the only piece of information that this indicator is meant to give you. So I'm going to download the indicator, and that simply now gives me the Keltner channel wedges. You should notice how easy it is. It should get addictive at some point, especially given how many different indicators we have. You can download things like the simple breakout tool, play around with breakouts, PE ratios. We also have option-specific indicators, things like the covered call calculator or the cash secured put calculator or even the entire wheel options calculator. So tons of different ways that you can take advantage of that. Now the next indicator I want to talk about is the edge signals indicator. The edge signals indicator is available with any one of our memberships, whether it's the volatility box, the opening range breakout, or even the squeeze setups membership, or take advantage of the bundle, which would give you access to basically everything. Now the edge signals is our proprietary overbought, oversold indicator, which helps answer the question, when do you want to get involved in the market? When do you officially have the signal that you're now, say after a sell-off, in oversold territory? And think of this almost as the RSI on steroids. Now, speaking of the RSI, the edge signals allows you to see all of this information very clearly, but let's say you don't have a membership and you want to just have a better version than the RSI. Come into our indicators page here and look for the dynamic RSI. This is a free indicator, and this will allow you to see much more information than the typical RSI. It's richer than that, and it's a middle ground. If you don't have access to the edge signal, no problem. You can still train your eyes to use something like the dynamic RSI. The edge signals makes this real easy with just giving you a simple buy and sell arrow, and it's the one that I like to use for all of our setups. It's my bread and butter indicator. Now, the next indicator that I want to talk about is another free indicator, and that's our momentum cross. So if I come in, you'll see the momentum cross right here. Simply click that indicator and that pulls up the momentum cross. Now you can download the indicator here. The momentum cross plots a simple dot, a cyan dot for bullish momentum and a pink dot for bearish momentum. And all it's doing is it's measuring the 3 and the 8 EMA to help you understand when is momentum starting to enter and exit the market and in which direction. So far we've downloaded the market pulse indicator, we've downloaded the Keltner channel wedges, we've downloaded the edge signals, we've downloaded the momentum cross. Now next, we need to figure out where we have an actual volatility edge. And this is where our memberships start to come in. If you're not currently a member, but you're interested to learn more, just follow along. It'll give you an idea of what's behind the platforms. In case you have no interest, you can skip ahead and we can go ahead with importing these indicators into our platform. Now, the first set of indicators that I want to talk about is our stock volatility box models. This answers the question, where do we have an intraday edge? And we have things like the entire live scanner built in, and you can even see the platform, or the chart, directly inside of the platform, the models. So you don't need to do any of this download stuff that I'm about to show you anymore with some of our latest updates. But let's say you would like to see these models inside of your ThinkorSwim platform as well. There, come inside of the indicators page here, click the zip icon, and that will download the zip file with this week's volatility box models. You should notice the date range very clearly says July 26th, and that's because we update this every single Sunday. And you can also see which week this model is available for. So this is where you download the stock volatility box models. For the futures volatility box models, all you need to do is come into your My Account section, and there, inside of downloads, you'll be able to find the futures volatility box. And if you click all 5 models here, that will download the futures models as well, which allows you to see July 26th. Both the stock and futures models show you exactly where you have a volatility edge in the markets we trade. And I'll show you what that looks like when we import them inside of our platform. And finally, if we come back inside of our indicators panel here, one last indicator that I want to download, which is also a free indicator, is the opening range breakout indicator. If you come in, you click download indicator, this gives us the last piece of the puzzle, which allows us to see where we have intraday activity showing us signs of breaking out one direction or the other. So at this point, we have all of the different indicators that I would want. Now, if we open up the folder in which we saved all of these files, you'll notice that all of them are currently compressed files. They're zipped. If you're in a PC, simply click on any one of these folders, right-click, and then select Extract All. This will allow you to unzip the folder and access the files inside of it. If you're on a Mac, simply double-click the folder and your Mac will automatically unzip them for you. So once I click Extract All, you'll see I have a second folder opened with the entire folder unzipped, and inside of this folder, I have that study.ts file, which is the study.thinkorswim format that we can import directly inside of the platform. So opening range breakout is done. Now we have our futures volatility box. I'm going to right-click, Extract All, download these as well, and now I can access all 5 of our futures volatility box models. I can also delete both of these zip files to keep my folders nice and clean. Next up, we have the stock volatility box. Right-click, Extract All, and this will now give me the stock volatility box models, all 4 of them, both the daily and the hourly models. Now we move on to the 3 different indicators that we have left. We have the edge signals as well. Let me first do the momentum cross. Then we're going to do the extended Keltner channel wedges. And then we're going to do the market pulse indicator. And I'm going to download the edge signals as well. I don't think I downloaded that, so let me come back in. We're going to come into the edge signals, download the indicator, and now I can unzip this. Okay, perfect. So at this point, if we take a little bit of a pause, what we have is all of our folders that are unzipped. All of these folders have ThinkorSwim files inside of them. Now we simply need to import them inside of ThinkorSwim. The way we do this is we come back inside of our ThinkorSwim platform here. And if you open up that studies menu one more time, you should notice that you have this import button. This import button allows you to import all of these study indicator files in one click. So if I were to come into all of the different folders that we have here, let's start with, say, the edge signals indicator. I can now see this file inside of ThinkorSwim. I can click open. In my case, since I already have a version of the edge signals, ThinkorSwim will ask me if I would like to override it. I can say yes. And now when I come in and I search for TI_edge signals, this is the indicator we just imported. I can see the edge signals plotting on my chart. If I come into the daily time frame, boom, we have the edge signals inside of our platform, the very first indicator. Let's continue importing the rest of our indicators. So if you remember, we have Market Pulse next. Inside of the Market Pulse, you'll find both the Market Pulse along with the utility labels. Go ahead and import both of them. I'll start with the Market Pulse first. And then I'm going to come back, come into utility labels, select Control A to select all 4 of these, and import all 4. Great, you're well on your way to importing ThinkorSwim indicators at this point. We're going to continue with the rest. I'll zoom through them without adding too much more commentary, but our whole idea here is we're setting up our entire interface. This is a one-time setup, and the only thing for all of our volatility box members that you need to do weekly is just download the updated models, which contains updated data. Next up, I have the momentum cross, so I'm going to go ahead and import that inside of my platform. Come back in, opening range breakout, come back in, extended Keltner channel wedges, our volatility box, all 5 of our futures models. And you'll notice that beauty of that overwrite feature is once you set up all of these study sets that we're going to walk through in this next section, as soon as you make this update one time, everywhere you have the study sets automatically gets updated. So you don't really have to do too much fussing around. Just click yes 4 times and boom, all of the updates are done for you. I essentially just walked you through the weekly update process right here. Now we need to create some of our study sets. So let's go ahead and do that. The easiest way to create study sets, now that we've downloaded all these indicators, is to add them onto our chart. So I'm going to start with adding in our market pulse indicator. We added that in. So we have the edge signals, we have the market pulse. I want to add in our momentum cross indicator. We added that in. Then I want to add in the extended Keltner channels that we just downloaded. These are the Keltner channel wedges. So these are 4 of the indicators so far. Next up, we have the volatility box models if you did download that. So we're going to add in TI_VBH. And here, just a little pro tip, depending on the membership you have, if you have access to the futures membership, I like to have a different study set where I swap out the scalper model with the aggressive model, with the doomsday model, etc., and leave the other indicators as is. So that's 5 different study sets for the futures models. And for the stock models, what I like to do is I like to have one study set for the daily models and one study set for the hourly models. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to start with first the futures sets, and I'm going to start with the scalper volatility box model. So first, let me show you what your charts should look like. And in my case, I like to turn off the colored candles. I like to see the native red and green. This is what our charts look like now. This is on the daily time frame. On the 1 minute on Home Depot, we should see nothing. That's because we have the scalper models loaded on, which are for the futures volatility box models. If I come into ES, now all of a sudden I can see our futures volatility box plotting, and it's moves like this one that we're looking for. So that gives you a little bit of a preview into the futures models, but let's start by saving this as a set. So I'm going to call this scalper, and you'll notice I already have some names here, so I'm going to actually choose scalper VB and select save. If you don't have that, click save as study set, type in scalper VB, click save. In my case, I have that name, but you will be able to save it no problem. So that gives us our first study set. And if I come into sets, you'll be able to find yours there as well for scalper VB. Now next, let's swap out the scalper models for the aggressive volatility box model. So I'm going to search for or I can simply just type in aggressive here, and you'll see I have TI underscore VBH underscore aggressive. I'm going to add that in. That now gives me the aggressive models for our futures markets, which is what the S&P was on today. Save as a study set. Here I'm going to save this as aggressive VB, and that gives me study set number 2. Now I'm going to take out the aggressive volatility box models here, and I'm going to load in our doomsday aggressive models. So I'm going to simply just swap out that last study set. You see I'm just changing this in study right here. Everything else remains the same. Save this as a study set. I already have the doomsday aggressive, so I'm going to save it as that. And then I'm going to swap this out with our conservative models. And this is for VBH. Again, all of this is a one-time setup. I hope this video is helpful for all of our volatility box members. I'm taking the time to do this step by step so you can follow along and have the exact same workspace that I have. So save a study set here, conservative VB, save, and then finally we have the doomsday models, which is doomsday conservative. I'm going to remove the conservative, save as set, and that gives us the 5 different future study sets that we would want. Now, what I need to do, or what I want to do, is create the 2 different stock study sets as well. The way I do that is by coming in and I'm going to search for VBH first. I'm going to create the hourly stocks. You'll see I have VBH stocks aggressive. I'm going to add both of these onto my chart here. So now I have TI underscore VBH stocks aggressive, TI underscore VBH stocks conservative. Let me apply both of these. Now on a chart of ES, I should see nothing. But if I come into a chart of Home Depot, I see the models plotting, the hourly models. You'll know they're the hourly models because we see the models changing with each hour of the market. So I'm going to save this as a study set. And this study set, I'm going to give the name stock. And this study set, I'm going to give the name stock VBH. Now I'm going to swap out both of these studies with VBD, and these are going to be the 2 different stock VBD studies. These are the daily models. So I'll say stock VBD, save. You'll notice now the models automatically updated in the back to the daily models. Now the last thing I'm going to do here is create one more study set, which is going to be for the opening range breakout. I like to have that as a handy one ready to go. So I'm going to search for opening range breakout, add in the indicator that we have here. By default, it's set to the 30-minute breakout. You can adjust this if you'd like. For all of our ORB members, there's a special indicator available in your downloads, which you can find right here. If you simply click on this button, that will then download this entire workspace. And inside of this workspace, you'll find that I have a special study available. This is the TI underscore ORB setup study. So let's actually import that one as well so you can see the difference. And this is designed for those of you that are specifically opening range breakout traders. It makes it much easier to be able to switch between different ranges inside of your ThinkorSwim platform. So let me come back inside of ThinkorSwim here, click import. I'm going to come back in and import this TI underscore ORB setups indicator. And that's the one that I'm going to have. That's the one that I'm going to have instead of the free version, because you'll notice if I click it, I can very quickly switch between the different breakout types, and it automatically follows all of the rules of our opening range breakout platform. So that's why I really prefer that study across the free study. Pick and choose whatever you'd like, whatever you might have access to. So we're going to save this as a study set, and I'll give this the name ORB, save. So now we have all of the different study sets that we need. I can click OK. You'll notice this gives us the opening range breakout platform. Now we can configure the actual buttons, and that will pretty much give us a platform that allows us to be incredibly productive. It's a one-time setup. Yes, this video is a little bit longer, but once you set this up, you'll be able to switch between different studies, switch between different study sets, different strategies, different backtesters, whatever it is, and get a really good feel and a handle on the ThinkorSwim platform. So let's bring this home. Now let's set up our tools menu here. To do that, I'm going to click the settings icon. That's the configure buttons. There, click add buttons and click study set. And now you should be able to find all of the names, recognizable names for things that you just gave it for the different study sets we created. So I'm going to start with adding the scalper VB. I'll move this clear button to the end. Then I'm going to add the study set of aggressive. Then I'm going to add the study set of doomsday aggressive. Then I will add the study set of conservative and doomsday conservative. Move clear to the bottom. And then we add in our two different stock VBDs and VBH. And we'll rename these buttons so they're nice and easy to read. And then finally we have ORB and then the clear button. So once I click save, what we have is a list of all of our different study sets, which now let me show you the magic of all of this. So we were on Home Depot earlier. Let's say you wanted to find where you have your hourly volatility edge. Simply click on stock VBH and boom, you have the hourly models ready to go. If you want to see where you have the daily edge, boom, click that, you have that ready to go. Let's say you're trading the early morning. You need to trade before you leave for work. You want to trade the opening range breakout. Load the ORB in and you have those levels ready to go, along with the key indicators, the edge signals, all of that good stuff. If you want to trade the 5-minute range or the 15-minute range, just come in, change the drop down, and you'll notice how fast that was. So that's the whole idea that we were going for. Speed here. We want our setup to work for us, not work against our setup where we lose a lot of time actually fumbling around, placing trades, things of that nature. Now, the last thing I want to walk you through before we wrap this video up is these watch lists. Now that we have created some really nice charts, you'll notice that you will want to create your own watch list. And at some point, you'll want the ability to be able to navigate the watch list here and have your chart update here. It's very easy to do that with ThinkorSwim with these link icons. You'll notice that there's a link to the right of the charts and there's a link to the right of the watch list. If you don't see that link, that's probably because your watch list panel is a little too narrow. So the way you fix that is by expanding it, and you'll see that number slowly creeping up. And if you connect these two watch lists, now what happens is, let's say I come into XLP, this chart automatically updates to XLP. I can click the volatility box hourly models, very easily spot that the volatility picked up inside of XLP today in that 8 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific hour. Come into our daily models instead and recognize that, wow, this was a much better way to encapsulate volatility, especially for that short side trade, which triggered early in the morning right into a new long side opportunity straight into the conservative models. Now, that's how we read all of this. You can create your own watch list as well. That's a fairly intuitive process, but once you create your own watch list, you can then connect the two of them, which makes everything nice and easy. The watch list that I like to have ready to go include a futures volatility box watch list, which if I load that in, that's the liquid futures markets. And here, I don't really have any of these columns. I simply just have the futures markets. Remove that, and you can load in any one of our dashboard scripts if you'd like, something like the 2-minute market pulse, etc. I'll show in a future video if there is interest on how to set up your entire dashboard, but that gives you a nice clean way to know what's going on in any one of the futures markets. Click on it, no fear of accidentally placing a trade, and you can now just scroll up and down between the different charts, load in the different models that you'd like, and see how the market's performed. I hope you found this video helpful for all of our Volatility Box members and for all new ThinkorSwim users in understanding how you can set up the ThinkorSwim platform to work for you. You'll notice here I still have the volume sub panel for futures. You remember how we can get rid of that? We click the chart settings, futures, hide show volume subgraph, and boom, it's gone. Now we want to save all of this one time before we lose it. So come into the top right where you see setup, click save workspace, give this whatever name you'd like. I'm going to call this my primary workspace, click save, and now whenever you open ThinkorSwim, it should automatically either open up to this platform, assuming your settings worked, or if they didn't, come back into application settings. You can click startup and now connect this to that particular workspace, primary workspace, so you can have it ready to go, pre-configured for whatever settings you'd like. I'm going to delete this gadget and delete this gadget for right now. Keep this nice and simple, and this gives you a really nice clean workspace, less noise, less room to get distracted, and a lot more time to focus on the charts and what the actual charts are telling you and what information you're getting. Okay, I know I said that we already talked about the last thing, but really the last thing. In this video, we primarily created study sets. The key difference between study sets and style sets is style sets will also save whatever time frame you're on. So let's say, hypothetically, for ORB, you wanted to always come in and see this on the 1 minute time frame chart. Maybe there's a particular time frame you like, or maybe it's the 2 minute, whatever that is. Well, if you come in and click Style and now click Save Style and you give this the name ORB 2 minutes, something like that, make sure to tick this box, include patterns and study set. Now, every single time you come in, and in fact, let's change ORB here from change button action from study set to style. And I'm going to select ORB 2 minute, click Save. Now, let me show you what happens if I was on a chart of, let's say, the scalper VB, and let's change this to a 5 minute time frame chart. And now I'm going to change ES to ORB 2 minutes. See what happens. We automatically change to a 2 minute time frame chart, and we automatically have our studies ready to go. So that's the key difference between a style and a study set illustrated for you. All right, as promised, that was the very end of this video. I hope you found this helpful in understanding how to set up the workspace on your end, how to download different indicators, the ones that come pre-built inside of the ThinkorSwim platform, along with the ones that you can download both for free along with the membership on our website. You'll notice most of our indicators are free, and I only talked about a handful of them. That's because most of these you'll just want to spend some time exploring now that you have a good understanding of the platform, how to download indicators, how to get them into ThinkorSwim. You can spend a lot of time exploring, learning, and finding what fits your trading style, essentially thinking of this as your new playground and picking and choosing what works for you before you start creating your own custom study sets and indicators. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading. Thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you in the next update.